Hey, welcome to HailChatter. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special episode for you today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, joined with our CEO at HailTrace, Derik Kline. Derik was in the movie as an extra in the movie Twisters. His storm truck was in the movie. Such a cool experience for you. So today we're going to talk to Derik about his experience in the movie Twisters during our Twisters Rewatch podcast. First of all, what inspired you to be a part of this movie?
I just thought it would be fun, honestly. You get to be on a movie set, right? Especially like a big, like Universal Studios, I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent, hundreds, I assume. Some of the cool things, the neat perspectives you got to learn, but to see how they operated as a crew, how the leadership worked. It was really neat to see, especially as a business owner. You kind of look at it from a different lens, I felt like, pun intended. And so it was really neat to see, and then to then wonder what was it going to look like in the movie. I really had almost no expectation for what the movie was going to play out like. There were a lot of rumors, but nobody seemed to really know.
And we didn't know the storyline until the movie was aired. Whenever you saw the movie, what were your initial thoughts?
Like this first scene, it's very much kind of what you expect. There's a little more scientific-y, but as far as like how storm chasers interact in the field, the way they dress, like this right here, like that's kind of what you would expect storm chasers to be like in the field. They're typically just more excited about the chase day and the setup. They don't have like some science experiment that they're testing out there. So it gives it a little bit more of a plot. But, I think immediately after watching this scene, this particular scene, this first tornado that they got, in my head, it went back to the El Reno, Oklahoma tornado where some storm chasers lost their life, but it felt very realistic around that theme. Probably a little over the top done, but it can happen. And so I think that was the first, oh, okay, serious right here. So it was interesting.
And for those people that may see this movie and say, I want to go out, I want to do this, but you're saying there's a danger to it. Of course, we see that in this first scene. What would be your recommendation to those who want to storm chase?
You have to learn, right? So there are different ways that you can learn. Obviously, you can go with someone that's experienced. That's a great way. I don't want to say you have to be a meteorologist to go storm chase. There are plenty that aren't meteorologists that storm chase. But if you can find an experienced chaser to ride along with, that's a really helpful way to learn some stuff. Even if you don't really have that, if you can read radar a little bit, that's helpful. And then just stay away. So 5 miles, 10 miles away from the storm, you can really observe a storm from 10 miles out.
Oklahoma's so flat, you can see for many miles.
Yes. So these particular chasers, they're going to get really close. I wouldn't recommend that for really even 99%. Even storm chasers that chase every day or most storms, they don't have the experience to be that close. So it's a special storm chaser to get really close. Yeah. You
mentioned earlier as a business owner that you got to see this kind of from a different lens, seeing the behind the scenes production. Can you explain that a little bit more?
It was really just neat to see the dynamic and then the way that they treated like the first level of actors versus they had backups for these actors as well. So they had like lookalikes that would, depending on the scene. So sometimes the main actors would actually be on a different scene shooting while the lookalikes would be on a scene where they didn't need their face directly. The planning and the process that had to be put in place, that was the most impressive thing. So you've got to think like they're doing like all the stuff that goes into this shot. They show up for the day and you really kind of have to nail it. People there that we're spending a lot of money on. There's props. There's, they were renting out things like hotels. There's a scene where they're at a motel. Like they had to have that motel completely rented out. No one was staying there. They had to have someone to shut off traffic in the town of Fairview every time they were doing a shot. you've got to be prepared and ready for that. But when you think about how much thought went into planning, in a lot of ways, like for us, like software, like it's the same thing. Like my CTO has to think through planning way far out and ahead. My product designer has to think through all of these things way out in advance in order to be successful with what they do. And that's what they're doing, from a high level.
And everything has to come together at the same time. Obviously, they also have to deal with the Oklahoma weather, which could be anything at any time of the year. And filming on that one specific Tuesday that you've got everything rented out, all the permits, what if it rains?
What was interesting so we started shooting in the spring. For example, the hotel scene, I had to drop my truck off because it was staged in the scene at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they shuttled me over to staging where I went to wardrobe and I put my wardrobe stuff on. And they literally take pictures of you from the previous scene. And then they grab the picture after you're done in wardrobe and make sure like, oh, the cuff link on your jacket was rolled up. We need that rolled up.
Wow.
Your hat was on backwards. You should wear your hat backwards. Like it was very detailed.
Wow. And not just for the main characters, but for everyone in the background
for everyone
too.
in the background, it was the same thing. So we get there, they would feed us dinner. So this is a night scene. So we got dinner, but it was raining. Like it was pouring rain. All the staging people were there setting up in the rain. The rain's gonna stop, so we're gonna do this shot. But it was ahead of a cold front. So the cold front came through. It was early May. It was like in the 40s that night, and a lot of us were wearing short sleeve shirts and shorts. Like it was freezing cold.
Wow.
The wind was blowing pretty strong. We started shooting it around, I want to say 8 or 9 o'clock. So it did delay. The rain delayed everything because we couldn't do it. But then once it finally got dark, they started to shoot, and they had lights set up everywhere. It was really crazy, all the stuff that went into it. And then we were there till 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Before we were done. So it was like, until we're done, we're there. And then finally at 5 in the morning we were done, and then they released us. And
this kind of makes me laugh because as a storm chaser, whenever that front hits, you need warmer clothes and probably an extra pair of clothes too, because you may be out in the rain and then the front hits, its temperatures are in the 40s, the wind is blowing just like you said, and you're wet and cold. Most good storm chasers will bring a change of clothes, but out on set, you guys couldn't have a change of clothes. You had to have the exact same outfit you were in the day before whenever it was sunny and 70.
Yeah, it's funny is so like I knew the days that we were gonna, so I knew there was a cold day coming. So they asked you to bring clothes that you think might work, and then if they didn't work with the wardrobe, then they would just change you. So the clothes that I brought a long sleeve and pants to wear, even on the day that was kind of warm, because I would prefer to be hot in the hot day and then warmer in the cold day. So I literally had a long sleeve shirt and a jacket for that scene, but then there were people with like shorts and a t-shirt on. I was like, whoo.
They didn't prepare.
I'm glad I thought that out that far in advance.
That's a good forecaster right
Yes,
there. You're
right.
thinking ahead multiple days in advance. Okay, so this is obviously, I don't want to call it a sequel, but the second Twisters movie that they've made. Twister, the first movie, whenever you saw that initially, did you ever think that you would be in the second movie that they were making, what's it, 20 years later? Yeah,
well, I mean, I didn't think they would make a second movie. As soon as I heard they were making a second movie, I was like, we have to figure out how to get the truck in there. And so that was my priority. I wanted to get my truck in there. I thought that would be really cool. I didn't realize that they literally engineered one of the trucks after our truck, that they designed it after it, which is even cooler. But no, I mean, it was my favorite movie. I still watch it a ton to this day. And I've always said it's fairly realistic as well. I mean, there's some stuff in there, but the same with this movie. This it's got a lot of realistic stuff in it.
Have you seen places that you recognize whenever you watch the movie?
Yeah, for sure. They show like the radar in Oklahoma with all the tornado warnings. I'm like, I wonder which tornado outbreak that was.
I'm sure looking at that, you're like,
yeah,
that
and even like
really
the roads
familiar.
that they drive, like some of them, I'm like, I wasn't there when they shot that, but I've driven on that road before. I've chased storms on that road before. Like I recognize that. It's
true Oklahoman. That's one of my favorite things about this movie is that it's set in Oklahoma, it's filmed in Oklahoma.
Yep, this is Oklahoma, 100%.
So we're starting to get into where they're going to show Glenn Powell. We've seen a lot of Daisy Edgar Jones, but we'll see Glenn Powell here in just a few minutes. Do you have any stories from interacting with the actors on set?
Anthony, he hung out a lot. I felt like he was probably the one that wanted to hang out with the chasers the most. He really got into the severe weather style. He thought it was pretty cool. Like, he kept saying, I want to go chase, and I actually believe, I think he really would like to come. I mean, with his schedule, who knows when, if he'll ever even be able to make it out, but he definitely seemed like he wanted to come back out and go real storm chasing. One of the actresses came up to me and was like, hey, okay, so here's the scene. What are some words that you would use? Like, if you were trying to position yourself in this way, what would you say if this was happening? And so we would kind of go through, like, different terms that we would use and things that we would say to try to say how we were trying to position ourselves on the storm. And then sure enough, they did this shot several times, but then you hear her start using that terminology. So it was pretty neat. There's the truck right there. That's actually me standing there by the truck.
There it is again.
Yep, and there it was again.
And I think this scene
I'm standing by the truck in both of those scenes. That's my claim to fame right there. Yeah, see, oh, Connor, that's my face right there by Connor's hat.
Right there.
Yeah, that's me right there. So that's Connor. And then the other guy is actually an actor. Yeah, see, I'm holding a map right there. So that's me. Look at the truck in all of its glory. But look, there's the other truck right there. Look how close it is. See?
How they
literally tried to design it after that. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
right
there it is.
Yeah, did you catch that one?
I missed that one.
Yeah, that's the only storm chaser truck that you will see driving in the movie that's not part of the movie.
Really?
Yep. That's me right there, walking in the background, right there with the black hat on. Yep.
And that's when you had to roll up your sleeves to a certain length.
Yeah, I think so. Did I have them rolled up or were they down? I can't tell.
Barely rolled up right there.
Yeah, so I had, but yeah, so I started over here, and when we had to do this 10 times or something. It was pretty warm this day.
I guess that brings us to the potential of taming a tornado.
Yeah.
In the way that they did it, they were trying to suck out all of the moisture in the air. Do you think that's possible, that we could suck out all the moisture in the air and tame a tornado?
Well, I thought, so I don't think it's possible, but what was interesting is they were basically using evaporative cooling was their plan, right? So it was to dry the air, which would create cold air as the water evaporates, and then it would create a cold pool, which is a real thing in weather, and then that cold air would sink and cause the storm to collapse.
Yeah.
In theory, yeah, that actually makes sense. I don't know. Well, for one, getting a tornado to actually suck all that stuff up into it, very, very difficult. I do think that. Well, I don't know if it would look like that. I do think somebody is going to shoot a firework into a tornado because of this movie. I promise, it's going to happen.
I think that Reed Timmer has before.
He's shot rockets into it.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I think now he's going to try to shoot it. Somebody, either him or somebody else, is going to try to shoot a firework into it. Make the firework go off in the tornado.
In the tornado.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Just for fun. There is no scientific. It's for that reason right there. So you can get out of your truck and celebrate. You have to survive it. So I don't know if it's the best idea. I have no interest in being in Reed's Dominator and being in a tornado. Nope, no interest at all.
So you don't want to do that, but hurricane hunting.
I will do that. I will get in a hurricane. Yeah. But I can predict more what's going to happen in the hurricane than I can in the tornado.
Makes sense.
So there's a lot more experience and knowledge around the inside of a hurricane versus what a tornado is going to do.
And there's not as much reaction, quick reaction from a hurricane versus a tornado can change paths, can change magnitude.
The magnitude
quickly.
that's the tough one, right? The vortices inside of it are stronger than the main circulation. And then once you're in it, if it's too strong, and there is a too strong on a tornado, and there hasn't been a too strong for a hurricane. It hasn't happened. But there has been a too strong for a tornado, and how do I know which one is too strong?
Yeah.
So I don't feel like taking that chance.
So the truck was in the movie.
Yeah.
And then something happened to the truck where it's been out of commission for a while. Can you give us an update on the truck? Will it be back in time for storm season?
It will be back in time for storm season this
Yay.
year, which we're very excited about. Essentially it got franked. We've got a lot of clients that understand what that means.
That's an if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. It's getting an upgrade on the motor, which is exciting. I've also got some plans to do some upgrading on some other equipment. So one of the Davis weather instruments I bought was for the truck. I've talked to a few folks about automating that to where we can actually use it properly. So because it has this big, our truck has this big cage on the back of it, right? I can pull the weather instrument back into there so it gets it out of the hail. So I want to have them put it on an actuating rod, the wind, so I can like hit a button. I have lots of buttons in my truck that aren't being used. So I want it to like literally send up the anemometer up above the truck so we can get wind speed. But then if it's hailing, I can just pull it right back down into the truck and get it out of the weather so we don't destroy them all the time, because that's what we do. So I'm excited about that. I also want to get the Atlas shingle roof that we have in the back of the truck on an actuator switch, because a lot of times when it's time to put the roof into hail, we can't get it, like it's hailing already, and so we can't just pull it and put the truck out. So I want to be able to stop, just hit a button, tailgate comes down, roof slides out, gets hit with hail when we pull it back in, and off we go. And then also I want to get different camera angles, and so I'm working on some different cameras that we can put on the truck that will shoot from different angles so we can see the storm in different ways. Some of them like closer to the ground, so you can actually see the hail on the ground as it's falling and bouncing. So like a low shot, a shot of the road, so you can kind of see the road and the spray and what it's actually like on the road. From outside the truck looking into the truck, I think will be a fun shot, so you can see who the driver is and what we're doing from afar. One inside the truck I think would be valuable. And then working on how can we get that to where we can stream that, so when we are out in the field, people can watch and really tell what's going on.
That's really cool. I mean, it really gives like a 360 view of what you're seeing. They obviously do a great job of that, but they film different days, different times, you know, they have a lot more time to give a 360 view. If you can do it in real time, that's what you're looking to do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we want to give people, because when we're storm chasing, we're doing this, right? Like and if you go back and watch the scenes of, especially the first scene, the storm chasers, they're always like this, right? Like I'm always looking up at the clouds, right? Like I'm constantly trying to analyze. So I want to be able to give the viewer that same, like, okay, like let's flip it here so they can see what we're doing. Okay, let's flip it here. Look at this. This is going to give them a straight shot view of the storm from behind. Of course, we have the 360 camera on the roof, so we can scan and pivot and move around as well. But there's something about like the angle that you put it at, and so being able to lower that angle closer to what the actual eyesight is, or again, if it's hailing, right? The 360 camera does not pick up hail very good. Like it's just not, like it's so high up that, baseball size hail looks like that on the road. But if I've got a camera that's, down on the cage, this high off the road,
eye level,
it's looking at, like, you're going to be able to see how big that hail is bouncing on the road. You're going to be able to see the intensity of it just smashing into the road or whatever it is that it's hitting. So I think there's some value in giving some different angles to really enhance the viewer experience.
Absolutely. Well, coming soon, 2025, we're going to have the truck back better than ever.
That's right.
It's been a lot of fun to hear your stories as well. So we appreciate you sharing your stories today and your experience. Everyone, our CEO, Derik Kline, on the movie, on the set of Twisters. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you feel it, chase it. And thank you for joining HailChatter today. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday with your next podcast.